Welcome to this presentation by Facilitators Research. This research is distributed exclusively for informational and educational purposes and does not constitute financial, legal, tax, or investment advice. For such services, you may reach out to speak to one of our officers.
Listing particulars. Section 6.1. Requirement for a prospectus under the Act. The prospectus of the applicant shall satisfy the provisions of Companies Act and Capital Markets Regulations. Section 6.2. Information about the issuer. Section 6.2.1. Information about the issuer. The full name of the applicant, its date and place of incorporation, and its postal address. The full names, physical and postal addresses of the applicant's registered office and of its transfer office. B. The applicant's trading names if different from two above, and if applicable, translated names in which it conducts business. C. If the applicant is a subsidiary, the name and address of the registered office of its holding company, or of anybody corporate, which had been registered under the Companies Act 2011 as its holding company. D. If the applicant has changed its name within the last 3 years, the old name must be printed in bold type under the existing name on the first page. E. The date of the applicant's conversion into a public company, if applicable. Section 6.3. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of their issue and distribution. Section 6.3.1. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of a statement outlining the following: A. The nature of the issue. B. The amount of the issue. And C. Where applicable, the number of securities which have been or will be created and/or issued. Section 6.3.2. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of one of three. The following terms and conditions of the issue in respect of which the application for listing is made. A. The class of securities. B. The number of securities issued or offered and stating the nominal value/value of each security. C. The issue price or offer price of each security. D. The methods of payment for the issue or offer price. E. How the new securities rank for dividend. F. Whether the new securities rank similarly with any existing listed securities. G. Any convertibility or redemption provisions, the procedure for the exercise of any right of preemption and the transferability of subscription rights. H. The period during which the issue or offer of securities will remain open after publication of the listing particulars, the date and time of opening of the subscription list, and the names of the receiving bankers. Section 6.3.2. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of 2 of 3. 1. Details of arrangements in the subscription form for the direct crediting of securities accounts for investors who already have their accounts in the CSD. J. The methods of and the time limits for delivery of the securities and a statement whether temporary documents of title will be issued and the nature of the document of title. K. The names, addresses and description of the persons underwriting the issue for the issuer and, where not all the issue is underwritten, a statement of the portion not covered. Section 6.3.2. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of 3 of 3. L. In the case of an offer for sale of securities, the names, addresses and descriptions of the vendors of the securities or, if there are more than 10 vendors, such details of the principal vendors and a statement of the number of other vendors and particulars of any beneficial interest possessed by any director of the issuer in any securities so offered for sale. And the method of listing. Section 6.3.3. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of where the securities for which listing is sought are allotted by way of capitalization of reserves or profits or by way of bonus to the holders of an existing security. The following are provided: A statement as to the pro rata entitlement. B. The last date on which transfers were or will be accepted for registration for participation in the issue. C. How the securities rank for dividend. D. Whether the securities rank similarly with any listed securities. E. The nature of the document of title. F. Its proposed date of issue. G. Whether or not it is renounceable. And H. How fractions are to be treated. Section 6.3.4. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of one of 2. where the securities for which listing is sought are offered by way of rights to the holders of an existing listed security, a statement as to how securities not taken up will be dealt with and the time, not being less than 21 days or such other time period as may be acceptable to the MSM, in which the offer may be accepted. B. The pro rata entitlement, the last date on which transfers were or will be accepted for registration for participation in the issue, how the securities rank for dividend, whether the securities rank pari passu with any listed securities, the nature of the document of title and its proposed date of issue, and how fractions, if any, are to be treated. Section 6.3.4. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of 2. C. Whether the Board of Directors has received any information from any substantial shareholders of their intention to take up securities provisionally allotted or offered to them, or to be provisionally allotted to them and the particulars thereof. D. A statement estimating the total amount of funds to be raised through the issue, the purpose of the issue and the proposed use of the proceeds of the issue, whether the issue is conditional upon shareholder approval, and whether the issuer is fully underwritten. E. Where listing is sought for securities with a fixed dividend, particulars of the profits cover for dividend. F. The date on which dealings in the securities are expected to commence. Section 6.3.5. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of where listing is sought for convertible equity securities, options, warrants, or similar rights to subscribe for equity securities. The maximum number of securities which could be issued upon exercise of such rights. B. The period during which such rights may be exercised and the date when this right commences. C. The amount payable on the exercise of such rights. D. The arrangements for transfer or transmission of such rights. E. The rights of the holders upon the liquidation of the issuer. F. The arrangements for the variation in the subscription or purchase price or number of securities to take account of alterations to the share capital of the issuer. G. The rights, if any, of the holders to participate in any distributions and/or offers of further securities made by the issuer and a summary of any other material terms of the options, warrants, or similar rights. Section 6.3.6. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of the amount or estimated amount of expenses of the issue, and of the application for listing payable by the issuer. Section 6.3.7. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of. In the case of an issue of new equity securities, details of the intended use of the proceeds of the issue. Section 6.3.8. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of. A statement that application has been made to the MSM for the listing of the securities. Section 6.3.9. Information about the securities for which listing is sought, the terms and conditions of. A statement that a copy of the prospectus has been filed with or registered by the Registrar of Companies and the Central Bank of Lesotho. Section 6.4. Information about the issuer's capital. Section 6.4.1. Information about the issuer's capital. The authorized share capital of the issuer, the amount agreed to be issued, the amount paid up, the nominal value and a description of the shares. Section 6.4.2. Information about the issuer's capital. Where an issuer intends to increase its capital, an indication of a. The amount to be increased. B. The categories of persons having preferential subscription rights for such additional proportions of capital. And C. The terms and arrangements for the share issue corresponding to such portions. Section 6.4.3. Information about the issuer's capital. The amount of any outstanding convertible equity securities and particulars of the conditions governing, and the procedures for conversion, exchange or subscription of such securities. Section 6.4.4. Information about the issuer's capital. Particulars of any alterations in the capital of the issuer and, if material, the capital of any member of the group within 2 years immediately preceding the issue of the prospectus, including the price and terms of such issues, whether they are fully or partly paid, and any details of discounts or special terms granted, or an appropriate negative statement. Section 6.4.5. Information about the issuer's capital. Particulars of any capital of any member of the group which is under option, or agreed conditionally or unconditionally to be put under option, including the consideration for which the option was or will be granted and the price and duration of the option and the name and address of the grantee, or an appropriate negative statement. Section 6.4.6. Information about the issuer's capital, where options have been granted or agreed to be granted to all the members or debenture holders or to any class thereof, or to employees under a share scheme, it shall be sufficient, so far as the names and addresses are concerned, to record that fact without giving the names and addresses of the grantees. Section 6.5. General information about the group's history, activities and prospects. Section 6.5.1. General information about the group's history, activities and prospects. Information about the group's history, activities and prospects. A brief history and description of the general objectives and nature of the business of the group. B. In cases where there are two or more business activities, which are material in terms of profits or losses, assets employed, A. Figures and explanations are necessary to demonstrate the relative importance of each such activity and details of the main categories of products and/or services offered, and B. An indication of any significant new products and/or activities. C. If the group carries business outside Lesotho, or the country of incorporation or other establishment of the issuer, is not Lesotho. A statement showing a geographical analysis of its business operations. Section 6.5.2. General information about the group's history, activities and prospects. Where a material proportion of the group's assets are situated outside Lesotho, a statement giving the best practicable indication of the amount and situation of such assets, and the amount of the assets situated in Lesotho. Section 6.5.3. General information about the group's history, activities and prospects. If the issuer is a member of a group, a brief description of that group covering the issuer's position within that group, and if a subsidiary, the names of and the number of shares held directly or indirectly by each holding company of the issuer. Section 6.5.4. General information about the group's history, activities and prospects. Particulars of any trademarks, patents or other intellectual or industrial property rights which are material in relation to the group's business and, where such factors are of fundamental importance to the group's business or profitability, a statement regarding the extent to which the group is dependent on such factors. Section 6.5.5. General information about the group's history, activities and prospects. Information concerning the policy of the group on the research and development of new products and processes over the past 3 financial years. Section 6.5.6. General information about the group's history, activities and prospects. Particulars of any interruptions in the business of the group which may have or have had a significant effect on the financial position in the last 12 months. Section 6.5.7. General information about the group's history, activities and prospects. Particulars of the principal investments including such investments as new plant, factories, research and development, being made or planned by the group. Section 6.5.8. General information about the group's history, activities and prospects. In relation to the group, particulars of the location, size and tenure of its principal establishments. For purposes of this paragraph, any establishment, which accounts for more than 10% of net turnover or production, shall be considered a principal establishment. Section 6.6. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. Section 6.6.1. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. Where necessary, an accountant's report prepared in accordance with IFRS. Section 6.6.2. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. Where more than 6 months have lapsed since the end of the financial year to which the last published annual accounts relate, an interim financial statement covering at least the first 6 months following the end of that financial year must be included in prospectus. Section 6.6.3. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. If such a statement referred to in 6.6.2 above is unaudited, that fact must be stated. Section 6.6.4. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. Where an issuer prepares consolidated annual accounts, the statement in 6.6.2 shall either be a consolidated statement or include a statement that, In the opinion of the issuer's directors, the interim financial statement enables investors to make an informed assessment of the results and activities of the group for the period. Section 6.6.5. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects, 1 of 2. A consolidated statement not older than 6 months of the following: the total amount of any equity securities of the group issued and outstanding, and authorized or otherwise created but unissued, term loans, distinguishing between guaranteed, unguaranteed, secured, whether the security is provided by the issuer or by third parties, and unsecured, or an appropriate negative statement. B. The total amount of all other borrowings or indebtedness and liabilities under acceptances, other than normal trade bills, distinguishing between guaranteed, unguaranteed, secured and unsecured borrowings and equity, or an appropriate negative statement. C. All mortgages and charges of the group, or an appropriate negative statement. And D. The total amount of any contingent liabilities or guarantees of the group, or an appropriate negative statement. Section 6.6.5. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects, 2 of 2. Intragroup liabilities should normally be disregarded, a statement to that effect being made where necessary. Section 6.6.6. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. Unless otherwise agreed by the MSM in exceptional circumstances, a statement of the general information on the trend of the group's business since the date on which the latest audited accounts of the issuer prepared, and B. A statement as to the financial and trading prospects of the group for at least the current financial year, together with any material information which may be relevant thereto, including all special trade factors or risks not mentioned elsewhere in the prospectus and which are unlikely to be known or anticipated by the general public, and which could materially affect the profits. Section 6.6.7. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. Where a profit forecast appears in the prospectus, the principal assumptions, including commercial assumptions upon which it is based, must be stated. Section 6.6.8. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. The accounting policies and calculations for the forecast must be examined and reported by the certified accountants or licensed auditors. Section 6.6.9. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. There shall be a report from the sponsor confirming that the forecast has been made after due and careful inquiry by the directors. Section June 6.10. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. A statement by the directors of the issuer that in their opinion the working capital available to the group is sufficient for the present requirements of the group, for at least the next 12 months from the date of publication of the prospectus, or how it is proposed to provide the additional working capital if not sufficient. Section June 6.11. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. A statement by the directors of the issuer on any adverse change in the financial or trading position of the group since last audited accounts, or an appropriate negative statement. Section June 6.12. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. In the case of a property company, a valuation report on the issuer's interests in land or building prepared by an independent qualified valuer, A. In conformity with IFRS, and B. On the basis of the value of such interests as at a date which shall not be more than 3 months before the date of issue of the prospectus, subject to the requirements that where such date is not the same as the date of the end of the last period reported on by the certified accountant in his report, a statement be provided in the valuation report reconciling the figures in the report with those in the accountant's report. Section June 6.13. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. Information on any legal proceedings covering at least the previous 12 months, which may have or have had a significant effect on the group's financial position, or an appropriate negative statement. Section June 6.14. Information about the financial position of the group and its prospects. Particulars of the profits cover for interest payments and the net tangible assets.